Feminism has become an unpopular word. Why has the word become such an uncomfortable one?
Is feminism dead?
It's very alive.
Women could not obtain credit cards or mortgages without a male cosigner.
All right, will you please sit down or be removed from the...
No, we aren't going to sit down. Why don't you give us some solid answers to our questions?
The meaning of feminism gets lost all the time.
A raging debate is what feminism actually means and what feminists stand for.
Would you call yourself a feminist?
No, I wouldn't say I'm a feminist.
Why or why not? And does it matter? Whatever you think right now, you may find yourself thinking differently by the end of this video. First, where did the word feminism come from? At first, feminism simply meant having to do with feminine stuff. The term was first associated with women's rights by a man, French philosopher and radical social utopian Charles Fourier in the 1830s. He used the word to talk about empowering women. And then from there, the term appeared in the Netherlands in 1872, Great Britain in the 1890s, and the United States in 1910. So what does the word actually mean? Y'all know by now that I think it's counterproductive to have a conversation about a term unless you first agree on what it means. So the next time feminism comes up in a conversation, first establish the definition. The definition of feminism is the advocacy of women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes. Contained in that short definition are two important concepts. First, the term equality of the sexes. Equality can trip people up because it sometimes means sameness, but sometimes doesn't. For example, the United States Declaration of Independence says that all men are created equal. And nobody thinks that that means that all men are the same, like that they're all 5'11" and they all have brown hair. In the context of political philosophy, equality means that all men, and feminists would argue all human beings, deserve equal rights, an equal voice in the democracy, and equal protection under the law, regardless of their sex or gender.
Feminism is just another word for equality. It means equality, and no one would object equality, no one should object equality.
The other piece of the definition is the advocacy of women's rights, which acknowledges that women's rights have not been equal to men's.
It's equal rights to have a job, to have respect, to not be viewed as a piece of meat.
So the goal of feminism is to bring the scale to equity, neither one above the other. Now, every single feminist I know, and I know a lot, loves the men in her life and loves men in general and truly wants a world where everyone can thrive.
Fighting for women's rights has too often become synonymous with man-hating.
But what about radical feminists? Technically, radical just means root. Remember the analogy of the buildings that we talked about in our second video, where someone lays a foundation of patriarchal beliefs, and then over hundreds of years, people keep adding laws and customs and assumptions on top of those foundations? So technically, a radical feminist would be someone who wants to solve the problem by digging up the whole thing from the foundations, uprooting it in order to eventually build something new.
Men start wars, and the entire planet should be a matriarchy.
This approach is in contrast to reform feminists who tend to approach the problem by making smaller changes. In the building analogy, a reform feminist might retrofit the building or repaint and recarpet. Honestly, I can see wisdom in both approaches, but I get it. I think when many people hear the term radical feminist, they think of man-haters. And that's not entirely unfounded. There are some women who do hate men and would want women to run the world. And as in many movements, a few loud voices can sometimes give an entire group of people an inaccurate reputation. Like how the word environmentalist could mean someone who loves nature and tries to recycle, or it could mean someone who destroys paintings and throws blood on people. Lots of different people claim the same label. So before having a conversation about feminism, it's a really good idea to clarify the terms. And I'm a big fan of using dictionary definitions to get people on the same page. So now that we've established the definition of feminism, have you heard of first wave and second wave feminism? The first wave developed in the 19th century when women in Europe and the United States started banding together to bring attention to the fact that the scale was crazy out of balance. All male governments didn't let women vote, didn't let women keep their money or possessions after they got married, didn't let women keep their children if they got divorced, didn't let women serve on juries, didn't let women into most schools or most jobs. So women got together and worked and sacrificed and protested so that their descendants could have a better system. The second wave of feminism happened in the 1960s and 70s when women fought for the right to play sports, to get credit in their own names, to attend Ivy League schools.
To set forth our own humanity, equal rights to get into graduate programs, to get into schools, to training programs.
To have legal protections from gender-based violence, and many other rights.
There aren't frivolous demands at all. We just want what men have had all these years.
So, if you're a woman who votes, or if you have a daughter who plays soccer, if you've gotten a credit card without needing your husband to sign for it as if you were a child, then you have feminists to thank for that. One more thing. White people watching this right now, did you know that many women of color don't feel comfortable calling themselves feminists? Many books have been written on this topic with titles like Against White Feminism and White Tears, Brown Scars, How White Feminism Betrays Women of Color. And activist Rachel Cargle famously said that white feminism is just white supremacy in heels. There is a long history of betrayal that created this rift between women, and I'll be covering that history in depth in future videos, so stay tuned. In the meantime, the last definition I'll share today is the term intersectionality, which was coined by scholar Kimberly Crenshaw. It means that lots of different factors contribute to the way we are treated as we move through the social structures of this world. I may experience sexism because I'm a woman, but my friends of color experience that same sexism plus racism. My gay women friends experience sexism plus homophobia. These intersections mean that different women have very different life experiences. And white feminists have over and over again excluded and demeaned and mistreated women of color. This is critical for people to understand, and I'll list some helpful podcast episodes and articles to read so you can get started. So, has your understanding of feminism changed at all? After watching this video, would you call yourself a feminist? I actually don't care whether you do or don't, and as I said, in some cases there are historical reasons why some people wouldn't want to. What I do care about is that we all try to create a world with greater justice and equity. If that means you label yourself an intersectional feminist, or an egalitarian, or a humanist, or a womanist, awesome. The important thing is that we all do this work together. Thanks for watching. Make sure you tell me in the comments what you learned about feminism, and then like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend.